Hey, how are you? My name is Daniel Dwyer and you're watching The Point, the weekly show where I talk about video games and junk. Hey, guess what? In case you didn't notice, Grand Theft Auto 5 is coming out in a couple of days, and it's made me think, video game worlds have gotten really good recently. When I was growing up, games were all about being able to do stuff. Games allowed me to leave my humble surroundings and go on pirate adventures and win the Premier League with Arsenal and kill ninja dudes with other ninja dudes. Back then, the simple graphics and gameplay didn't impede us in doing so. Like our toys, we just used our imaginations to fill in the blanks. These were linear experiences that you usually played to win. The characters and environments existed to challenge you or to service the game's mood or narrative. We played them like we watched movies or read books, from start to finish. Most games are still linear, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's certainly not a mark on quality or fun, but more and more we're getting interested in games that challenge the linear conventions. Then in 2001, a game came out that changed the way developers think about game worlds, and we've been reaping the benefits ever since. I still remember the first time I played GTA 3. It was like peeking behind a curtain into a whole new way of playing games. Instead of playing to win, I was stepping into another person's shoes. I could do the missions and progress the story if I wanted to, or I could just muck about, play with the rules of the game world, or simply explore. By the time you finished GTA 3, you knew Liberty City. You remember where the police station was, the fastest routes across town, the number of cardboard boxes in that alleyway. Open world games had existed before, especially in the RPG genre, but there was something about GTA's world that felt like it still existed when you turned off the console. It was the details, the care and attention given into fabricating the illusion that this world stretched on past its horizon. When you play one of these games, a game that has a believable world and allows you certain freedoms, it's quite different to playing other games. Instead of feeling that the world has been crafted around you, it's almost as if the world existed before you were there. It's kind of agnostic to your presence. And the feeling you get from that is quite remarkable. Remember that moment when you emerged from Vault 101 and stood at the edge of the capital wasteland? The countless possibilities on the horizon, knowing that you were going to have the most incredible adventure and that each step on the road was yours to decide. Remember taking the boat across Azeroth for the first time, the moment you first walked out onto the Presidium, the countless hours spent happily, aimlessly wandering through Tamriel. These are worlds we've really fallen for, familiar places we revisit with a sense of comfort, like old haunts, full of familiar places and faces. These are worlds we love being in. Completing the game part becomes kind of secondary to simply exploring the world. How many of us just explored Fallout New Vegas and didn't actually bother completing the game? This whole concept of game worlds becoming increasingly immersive really hit home with me a couple of years ago. I remember my dad popping into my room when I was playing on my Xbox 360. Raised Catholic, he'd always had an affinity for the Holy Land, and on this particular day, I was walking along the rooftops of Jerusalem in Assassin's Creed. My father's never been interested in games, but he did something that day he'd never done before. He sat down. He watched. For maybe 5 or 10 minutes, I took him on a tour of the ancient city, hunting down buildings he'd visited in real life and taking in the views together. When I was a kid, my parents were super strict about what time I was supposed to go to bed, except whenever Dad stumbled onto a Western on the television. Mum would go to bed and the two of us would stay up watching cowboys and Indians fight it out. And I always thought, if he was born 30 years later, would he have fallen in love with the world of Red Dead Redemption in the same way I did? Our generation doesn't even have to use its imagination. Vast cities, states, planets, and galaxies stretch out in front of us. These are places we've memories of, stories from. Nobody's looking forward to GTA because of the shooting or the driving or the mission types. We don't care if it's guns or swords or boats or in space. We look forward to these games because of the worlds, the inhabitants, the adventure. Next week, millions of us will leave our sitting rooms and go on holiday to somewhere exciting. A new place to explore that in time will also become familiar and comforting. A place will create new memories and new stories. The fact that these places aren't real doesn't mean anything. We still love visiting them, and those of us fortunate enough to be video game enthusiasts have got another holiday coming up in a couple of days. So put down your school books, cancel your plans, and maybe take a couple of days off work. We've got some fun to have. I'll see you in Los Santos.